Hi, everyone. Welcome to Virtual Wednesdays. My name is Carrie Montgomery, and I'm the Director of Events at the Fine Arts Museums. And I have had the absolute pleasure of working collaboratively with our public programs team, along with all of the talented folks at Mercury Soul, to bring this virtual showcase to fruition. Tonight, we are celebrating the last episode in our three-part series with Mercury Soul, with a Q&A with a few key people who have made this project possible. We hope to give you a closer look at the artistic process and collaboration behind the series and what went into ideating, filming, and producing each video. So with that, I am thrilled to introduce Matthew Ebisuzaki, Managing Director of Mercury Soul, Donovan Sell, Director of Photography, also with Mercury Soul, and Isabella Holland, Curatorial Assistant of European Paintings at the Fine Arts Museums. So if I could have each of you share a little bit about yourselves and your role in the creation of this series. Matthew, I will start with you to kick us off.
Well, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm the Managing Director of Mercury Soul, just as Carrie said, and my job throughout this process has been making the most unique, connected, and artistic experience that I can through both film and music in collaboration with the Legion of Honor and the DeYoung Museum and the overall Fine Arts Museums of San Francisco. And it's been my pleasure to work with many talented filmmakers and musicians. And today we have someone who's been really crucial to making all of Mercury Soul's videos as good as they are. And he's been with us for a long time and working along the sidelines. Donovan Sell, he's here and he's graciously given us so much of his talent and helped guide us on how we can be better. And so we're really happy to have him. I'll pass it off to him.
Thank you, Matthew. Yeah, so my name's Donovan Sell. I'm a freelance director of photography based in the Bay Area here. A lot of my work is based between the commercial world and the corporate world. And I just really wanted to give back to the arts in some way to, get my creative itch satisfied. And Mercury Soul has been a great intro to some wonderful, locations and to artists and venues that I really didn't think I would have a chance to be able to photograph in. So I got to thank Matthew and Mercury Soul for these great opportunities to just be able to photograph and capture some of these artists that really need more presence and more media to be exposed to. So it's been a great opportunity, and I thank you guys.
Incredible. And Isabella, you've kind of been our tour guide for the Legion of Honor. So would love to hear a little bit about your involvement with the project.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. So I was the representative from the Legion, and I'm a curatorial assistant with the European Paintings Department. And I was so thrilled to be a tour guide, especially giving my first tour of the Legion in almost more than a year. And it was amazing to kind of guide the Mercury Soul team in preparation for the music video, giving a history of the collections. The Legion is home to both European paintings, decorative arts and sculpture, as well as the ancient art collection. And just a history of the collection. It was founded in 1924. We're actually going to be celebrating an upcoming centenary date, so that's also exciting. So it was amazing to kind of merge both the history of the collection, the building space, to give it better context, and to see it kind of activate and come to life through this music video.
Incredible. Thank you all so much for being here. So we just watched Time Stand Still. As Isabella mentioned, it was actually filmed in April, so when the Legion of Honor was still closed, so we all got kind of a sneak peek of what was to come when we were anticipating reopening. And this video really kind of analyzed the different perceptions of time by highlighting the Legion of Honor's timeless beauty. And for those joining for the Q&A right now, if you could please drop any questions that you have for the panelists into the YouTube chat feature, and I will aim to get to as many questions as we have time for. So with that, I'll kick us off. Matthew, if you could actually tell us a little bit more about the concept and the themes that were explored in this video and how it kind of came to fruition.
Well, the simple answer is time stands still. The first thing we think of is time. And when Mason was coming up with the music, Mason Bates, who's the artistic director of Mercury Soul, when he was developing the music for this, he really wanted to take a different approach to combining something from very old and making something brand new with it. And so my job as director was to find a way to show how time could be shifted, at least visually, perceptually. And the first thing that I thought of was, well, of course, we can just slow everything down. And I used to do dance when I was young for 5 years here in San Francisco. And I was thrilled to be able to bring on Doris Andre, who is a fantastic ballet dancer with the San Francisco Ballet. And she was able to give us these flowing motions, these very powerful moves in right next to the Rodin sculptures. And this was able to just create this live mixture of dance, physical art that's been created by Rodin, and then music as well. And one of the things we were really happy about in this whole process was that it allowed us to just also reflect back upon the year. And I don't want to dwell on it too much, but everyone's had a year, and all of our perception of how time has passed during this year it's not been very pleasant, but we've all had different ways of interacting with it. And we just wanted to showcase that even though this is happening and it's a difficult moment in our history, it is still it allows us to experience time differently. Some it was fast, some it was slow. And we wanted to just see if we could capture some of that, because we knew artistically we needed to show that in a way that could connect with people in different arts mediums.
Incredible. And this video really kind of encapsulates, the art perspective, the music and the dance and the performative aspects. And Isabella, I'd love to hear from you when you led the group through, and what you were sharing a little bit in terms of how to pull from the permanent collection at the Legion to draw inspiration from. And I know Matthew and Mason and the whole team, we're really in depth kind of thinking about what spaces could bring to life this like grand vision that we had. And I think we all were blown away when we saw the video, because I know we're kind of thinking back a long ago, but maybe if you could shed a little bit of light, Isabella, on kind of the process of scouting the spaces and working with and interacting with the art and sculpture.
Yeah, so I first took the approach very literally, and I was looking for musical motifs and works of art to share with the Mercury Soul team. But then I realized what really was the best approach was just giving a tour starting in Gallery 2 of the Legion. There's 19 galleries. They have such a range of artworks, a range of materials and periods from European history represented. And it really was a conversation. And it was really kind of amazing to let the Mercury Soul team respond and to see what artworks captured their attention, and then giving more information about the spaces, like in particular the Salon Doré, which is this amazing replication of an 18th century salon in France. Really, I remember, Matthew, you were so attracted to the space, and there was clocks in there, and then just from that kind of fleshing out the themes of the music, and then kind of having that collaboration and not setting my own agenda, even though I totally had paintings that I wanted to share. It really was amazing when you are so inundated with the collection to see how other artists and art makers respond and what themes are drawn out from that. So that was such a great experience for me of like looking and listening.
That's a really great example, Isabella, with the Salon Doré. And Matthew and Donovan, I'd be curious to hear your perspective on how you kind of, soaked up that experience and put that into film. I was there when, on site, you all were like, let's do it from this angle, or let's have that mirror reflect into this mirror. So maybe thinking about how to kind of bring that vision to life and really doing it kind of on site as we selected those spaces. Curious to kind of hear how that evolved.
Yeah, and I'll say that too, Donovan's involvement was on the two DJing pieces, and I wanted to bring him here because his perspective is one it's not just from our perspective, it's not just from curatorial, and it's not just super high level down of, we want to create this series. When you first see a space, you're not just looking to fill it up, and especially something like the Legion or the DJing, it's just filled with so much artwork, you're looking for inspiration. And so for me, as soon as I got to these different spaces, I just thought we could do these different things. And what really needs to come down to is the director of photography saying, Matt, actually, you can't do those things. Or Matt, here's a better way to do those things. And that's where I took it from Donovan and Matt Rome, who is our DP for Time Stands Still. And these two were the ones who really turned ideas into life. So Donovan, maybe you could talk about how you see these spaces and what you think of first, because I know that your many years of experience let you see things that we don't.
I mean, it's hard to capture things in two-dimensional, in a video screen, that, especially a space that, whether it be the Legion or the DJing, there's just, when you walk in, you're immersed by it, you're surrounded by things, and it's so hard to capture that experience on a two-dimensional plane. We try to do it with using depth and foreground and background and things, but it's really hard to replicate the, just for saying at the DJing, there's that little outdoor rotunda that it's a beautiful, just white walls, very simple, very plain, but it photographs very well. And, I'm sure a lot of people just walk in there and walk right out and not really take time to appreciate the space. But, I just saw that and I was like, oh, we can really utilize this and, get on some wide lens, manipulate time by having it, a little slow motion. We had a dancer with some nice flowing wardrobe that really worked well. And we can make almost a whole video in that little tiny, 10 by 10 space. But then we had the rest of the museum to, work with. And it's so much that it's hard to take it all in and make something. Like, I can make something that's, an hour long here, but we only have 4.5 minutes or so. So to really just compress the time and take in the space, I almost wanted to have more time for scout. Like, we only had one day, I think, to scout it, but I wanted to go back 2 or 3 more times to really just kind of work things out. So we can, on our shooting day, we were super efficient and have a solid plan, because it's the worst thing is when you have a whole crew of people willing to help you, but you're not quite sure which way to go yet. So I like to just be super ironed out and plan everything as much as we can, so we're as efficient as possible on our day and, not wasting people's time.
Well, we do have a couple of folks who joined a little bit later, so I just want to remind everyone that if you missed the video, it's just under 5 minutes, but you can actually watch back on live stream. So just start from the beginning and then you'll pick up with this conversation. But Donovan, I'm curious, how much of the plan ever changes on site? You were saying, it's good to have like a plan in place. There's such a large team that was collaborating on the projects at both the Legion and the DJing, but are there kind of in the game changes that take place where you see a perspective with an artwork in the background or maybe a camera angle? I'm just curious to kind of hear your creative thinking on that when you are filming in the space.
I mean, definitely, I would say the one thing, the way we can account for is some people might, show up late or not be at the right place at the right time. So we have to have some flexibility to bounce from one thing to another. And when we were shooting in one of the galleries, the sun started coming through this window and it would bounce off the floor and just created this beautiful flare and sunlight. And I was like, we have to shoot this right now. I know we're supposed to be 2 galleries over, but we have to go shoot that now, because that sun is, we can't replicate the sun. That's the best light there is. So we just kind of, pivoted and all hustled over to that gallery and started shooting that. And I think that actually worked out really well. I think the key is having a crew that supports you and trusts you. And, we're all like marching this way, but I'm like, sorry guys, we got to turn this thing around and go over here because this is going to be much better. And it's a lot of times you'll run into some roadblocks, or if the crew is not totally trusting with you, there might be some grumbling and arguing. But luckily, I don't like to have people that have negative energy on my team. So we just try to have a good mesh of people and like, look, guys, this is going to be worth it. And it's a little bit more work, but I think it's going to be a better final product. And it usually ends up being that way.
That's exciting. It's exciting to hear kind of the creative process of different teams. We have a couple of questions coming in. One I want to ask that's more curatorial focused, and maybe Matthew and Isabella, this could be for you. But the question was, how did the Legion of Honor architecture and collections inspire the original concept of the film? And I think we spoke briefly about this, with the concept maybe being developed parallel to visiting the space, but really how much of it was drawn directly from the artworks and the galleries that we landed in. For any of the films, really, but maybe for Time Stand Still in particular.
Isabella, if you want to take that, I'll follow you up.
Okay, well, I can just talk about, I suppose, the experience of being on set, and it was amazing to actually be there at the initiate, like the conception, taking Matthew and his team through the galleries, providing questions for any artworks or spaces that Matthew had questions on. But what I think I was super drawn to, Matthew, is just you were really interested in spaces. And I think that's so much what a museum is. It's just like, yes, there are paintings, but it's also kind of the harmony of being in a space. And I think that that's what I love seeing with the music video is that it captured the spaces of the Legion and that experience of being in the Rodin galleries and the sculptures, being in the Salon Doré, which is much more, it's not supposed to be an isolated artwork, but kind of an imitation of how one lived. And I think that was so interesting for me as a curator to kind of again have my own agenda of like the paintings with musical themes or specific things like the individual object. It was much more than that, and I think that kind of the sense of experience and sensation was prevalent for me when I kind of thinking of the concept from its initiation to filming on set in the Legion.
Yeah, I will say that the spaces that we are, so accustomed to being in, surrounding ourselves within the museum, sometimes we just, like as Donovan was saying, we just pass through them, right? And it's not any of our faults. It's just like this awareness that a lot of people they expect to see the one exhibit or this one piece that they're really looking forward to. But for me, when I saw that as a musician, I was thinking this could really be a space where we have people exist alongside the artwork. So specifically in the Legion, we circled our singer and Cortez Mitchell, fantastic countertenor from Chanticleer. And we also circled our violinist Kashi Elliott in the rotunda. And because it just had all these doorways surrounding them, it just had this feel of, as we pass through, we just have all these avenues of entry, of just different artistic spaces dedicated to different art pieces. And for me, if I was a musician, that's exactly where I want to be. I want to be in the middle of everything, just so I can have the most going on in my brain actively as I'm playing things, so I can just, be able to give all of it right there. And so for me, having that ability to just say, I think we have to put someone right there, it was almost obvious, like painstakingly obvious, one could say. But also the architecture in the Legion is timeless, right? Those columns are just absolutely stunning. And that's why we opened with the Rodin Thinker in the courtyard. And we were able to, because columns represent this stability, like this pillar, and the amount of space we had and the time that we could play with was relative to the space that we had as well. So for me, it was a beautiful marriage of the two. So I was really happy about that.
And Donovan, one of the things that I took away from each of the videos is you feel like you're there. I mean, with all of the elements that are kind of brought forth between the architecture and the artwork and the galleries, I'm curious what your kind of creative mindset was in capturing all of these different elements, because it is really a lot to kind of coincide into one piece, and what your creative thinking was and kind of bringing that forth and what you wanted the viewer to experience within your process.
Yeah, I think like Matthew touched upon is like, so many things that people just take for granted, like the staircase at the grand staircase. I think that was the last shot we did. We didn't even have it scheduled, and I was like, no, we need something that just ties in, because we had our actress, the
Mia Pixel.
Yeah, she was approaching the museum. She enters the museum, and then she's just in the gallery. And I was like, yeah, but I think we need something that just conveys her traversing through to the galleries. And just those little details of like, the railing and the wood features that I think most people wouldn't take the time to photograph because they're there for, like you said, a specific art exhibit or a specific thing. And there's actually so many more of those moments that I wanted to capture there because it's just the architecture is so stunning. Similar with the DJing, similar with the Legion, is like those columns are just so iconic, and you see those and it just, like, I have to pay attention. Something important is here. Like, this is not just a building; it's really something formidable. And I just try to capture that moment as best we can to make people pay attention to it. It's not just about the show that's on display, and those are important too, but these buildings are works of art.
Absolutely. And we've got time for a couple more questions, but I would love to hear from each of you. Someone from the audience is asking why this particular collaboration with Mercury Soul was important to collaborate with the museums at both the Legion and the DJing. So I'm curious, each of your responses, like why you felt in this time, in this moment, kind of offering it in a virtual component, why it was so important. Maybe we'll start with Isabella.
Okay, let me think. But I must say what I really loved, just a selfish reason, was being able to talk about art again in front of art, taking Matthew and the Mercury Soul team through the museum. And sometimes I think of painting as kind of being silent. The painting itself is silent, or the object itself is silent, but a museum really is a space to bring those objects to life, whether it be through the didactics or just being with a friend and talking about art. And so I love that through this music video, you could see that space come alive again and see the different components that are so particular to the Legion of Honor, walking through the columns, the Rodin Museum, the Salon Doré, or Gallery 18, where the John Martin painting is part of kind of that section. It was just so nice to be able to see the Legion through the perspective of a musician and through the director, and that there are so many different lenses in which you can experience and see the museum. So that, for me, my selfish reasons were, and I think that for the enjoyment, you can really then go to the spaces and think about those connections. So that was amazing.
Incredible. Thank you, Isabella. Matthew, what about you? Why did you feel this collaboration was so important?
When we first started toying with the idea, after our first series, Mercury Soul Cathedral, which Donovan was involved with and did a fabulous job, we thought, we need venues like this only. We just need excellent venues all the time. And somebody brought the conversation to the DJing and the Legion, and we just said, yeah, that'll work.
Little did you know.
Little did we know. But the thing is, something that I'm really passionate about is finding different partners that would not normally partner up to create something that they wouldn't normally do. So the DJing and the Legion and Mercury Soul all have different priorities, they think. But in actuality, it's about bringing art to people, right? Where it will make a difference and where it will impact them the strongest. And so when you team up people who actually want the same thing, even though it's maybe written differently, you get this result that's unprecedented and allows so much more blooming of creativity. And all of a sudden, all these teams are working together, and there's just so many more neurons firing everywhere. And so to me, that was actually the biggest thing, is it had to happen. Once it started, it just had to happen. The music, art, and then dance together. I mean, that is the holy trinity right there.
Donovan, what about you?
I just felt it was like a nice welcome back, after being closed and shut down for better part of a year. For me personally, I used to live literally a stone's throw away from the museum, and I went there a lot because it was so close and I had the time, and I just really enjoyed the space. And having it closed for so long, it was not awesome. I felt excluded. We had a little in, because it technically wasn't open yet to the public, but we were in there, or photographing or making this video. And I was just like, this is going to be a great little like appetizer for everyone to say, hey, museums are open again. Come on back.
It kind of worked out perfectly, the timing, because we, released the announcement of these videos when both of the museums reopened. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I truly enjoyed our conversation. And thank you to everyone for sticking with us. All of the Virtual Wednesday programs are actually archived on our YouTube channel. So we invite you to watch the previous 2 Mercury Soul videos. Everything is Slow Motion and Bach Beats Bates, which accompany tonight's showcase and complete the 3-part series. And for more information on tonight's program and Mercury Soul, please read the description below. And I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. And it was just so wonderful connecting with each of you. So thank you again.